Single dad discovers unexpected truth. Babysitter for his twin daughters is the CEO's daughter. Jake woke to the sound of laughter erupting from the living room. A symphony composed by his twin daughters, Emily and Zoe. The sun streamed through their kitchen window, illuminating the stacks of mismatched dishes and half-finished pancake batter. He could smell the sweet, buttery aroma wafting through the air, mixing with the remnants of last night's hastily prepared dinner. A chaotic yet cozy start to another Saturday in Maplewood. "Dad, look, we made a fort," Emily exclaimed, her face beaming as Zoe giggled beside her, hiding behind a mountain of cushions and blankets. Jake paused for a moment, his heart swelling at the sight. These moments were fragile treasures, alive with the unfiltered joy of childhood. He couldn't help but smile, despite the tightness in his chest, the weight of bills, errands, and his responsibilities ever present. Just as he flipped the last pancake with a flourish, Mia walked in, her gentle presence igniting a sense of relief. The college student effortlessly blended into their lives, her laughter mixing well with the girl's exuberance. She was everything he needed, nurturing and patient, lifting the burden of guilt that often nagged at him when he couldn't juggle everything alone. But little did he know, her world and his stood on opposite ends of the spectrum. Before he could soak in the bliss of the moment, his phone buzzed violently on the counter, shattering the serene atmosphere. Holding his breath, he read the message: sudden layoffs at the hardware store. Panic clawed at his insides. Financial disaster loomed dangerously close, and the laughter of his girls felt like a cruel contrast, a reminder of the weight he could no longer hold. "Hey girls, let us take a walk outside," he said, masking the dread that coursed through him. The community in Maplewood had always been tight-knit. As he stepped out, he noticed his neighbors gathering, sharing homemade casseroles and offering kitchen staples with warm smiles. Empathy radiated from everyone, a chorus of words affirming unity. Jake felt the crack in his heart heal slightly. Community, its undeniable ability to rally together during storms, showcased the resilience of those around him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as stability seemed within reach, the ground shifted beneath him. Mia and Jake shared bittersweet moments, their connection deepening amidst the growing pains. She was enchanted by his devotion to Emily and Zoe, while he adored her genuine kindness. But his heart ached. Could he trust her? Representation of a world he'd resented stood only a breath away. As Jake contemplated these feelings, the shadows of Mia's family loomed large. What happened when the girl who brought joy also carried the burden of privilege? The day Mia's true identity was unveiled, she would reveal her secret. Daughter of a ruthless CEO, someone who had caused countless family suffering, like Jake's. The truth loomed, and with it, a tempest of conflicting emotions swirled. Would their bond withstand the weight of mistrust? Jake's heart raced as he stood at the edge of this revelation. He had built a life of love for his daughters, but in Mia's world, could compassion be lost? The looming question would send him spiraling. Would he tear down the walls he had painstakingly erected, or let this revelation shatter everything? The air crackled with uncertainty, and he knew this journey was just the beginning. As Jake walked with the girls down Maplewood's tree-lined streets, their laughter echoed against the warm summer breeze. Flashes of sunlight danced through the leaves, highlighting the vibrant amber tones of the world around them. It should have felt peaceful, but an invisible weight clung to his heart, an unsettling awareness that something was about to change. "Can we grab ice cream after our walk, Dad?" Zoe's big brown eyes sparkled with hope, always ready to seize a moment of joy. "Please?" Jake's smile faltered for a second. A small treat felt like a luxury now. "Sure, sweet pea," he said, trying to make his voice firm and carefree. But his stomach twisted and churned. He had to find a way to make this work, to keep their spirits high. They reached the small park where kids played freely, their imaginations unfurling like the very kites that danced overhead. Jake watched Zoe and Emily sprint toward the swings, their laughter brightening even the darkest thoughts hiding in his mind. As he took a seat on a nearby bench, the usual backdrop of vibrant childhood joy began to blur into the chaos of his reality. Mia joined them shortly, ice cream cones in hand. "Sorry I took a bit longer. I thought this one might brighten your day." She handed each girl a cone topped with a generous swirl of chocolate fudge. The girls squealed, their cheeks rosy with excitement as they dug in. For a fleeting moment, Jake wished he could bury himself in the innocence of that scene. But as he observed the carefree interactions, conflicted feelings surged once again. How could he let Mia in completely when he suspected her life was such a stark contrast to his own struggles? He couldn't avoid the gnawing thought that soon he might have to confront her coming truth. "Dad." Emily's sweet voice jolted him from his spiral of thoughts. She was staring up at him, her ice cream momentarily forgotten. "Are you okay?" Jake cleared his throat and forced a smile. "Of course. Why wouldn't I be?" Zoe, still busy savoring her ice cream, added, "You just look serious." Something inside tugged at Jake's heart. They were so innocent, so oblivious to the storm brewing underneath. He contemplated lying to them, but felt a tug of loyalty to be truthful. "You know, sometimes grown-ups have a lot on their minds. But I'm here, and we're having fun together, right?" Just then, Mia squeezed onto the bench beside him, her shoulder brushing against his. "If it's too much, we can talk about it, Jake. I'm not just a babysitter. I want to help." The sincerity in her voice stirred his inner conflict. He wanted to connect with her, to let her in. But the doubts remained. Their hands brushed while reaching for the same napkin, and Jake felt a jolt of electricity between them. "Mia," he started, unsure how to weave his thoughts into words. "About everything." But before he could continue, a distant voice called out, "Jake? Hey, Jake." It was Tom, his neighbor. The man approached with a concerned look on his face, a clipboard in hand. "What's up, Tom?" With dread settling into Jake's bones, he noticed the subtle shift in the air. What news was this? His mind knee-jerked to the worst conclusions. Suddenly, all the colors seemed to fade from the park, voices turning into a muted hum against a pounding heart. "Hope I'm not interrupting your family time, but I think you need to see this." Jake's stomach dropped as Tom handed him the clipboard. "It's about the hardware store." His mind raced ahead, narrowing the focus on uncertainty, fear, and the chance that his life was about to unravel even further. "I think we need to go home," he murmured almost to himself, feeling the weight of impending darkness closing in around him. How would he explain this to the girls, to Mia? In the sharp silence that followed, Jake realized the moment of truth was approaching faster than he wanted. Was he ready to face both the outside world and the turmoil hiding inside his own heart? The coming days would challenge everything. Would his fragile world of laughter and innocence survive the storm on the horizon? Jake took a steadying breath, trying to regain some semblance of calm as Tom's expression darkened further. The clipboard weighed heavy in his hand, the glossy paper a stark reminder of the reality he feared. He glanced at Mia, her face reflecting concern, her eyes wide as she sensed the shift in mood. "Tom, just tell me," Jake urged, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "What is going on?" Tom shifted uneasily, as if the words were stuck inside him. "It's about the hardware store. There's been a serious offer on the table, Jake. They're asking for a lot more than we anticipated. I thought you should know, given your stake in the business." Jake's breath hitched. 1,000 questions raced through his mind, but one stood tall above the rest. Was he really prepared to face the truth? "What does this mean?" "It means if you don't come up with the funds, they might sell it out from under you," Tom replied gently. "Your stake is worth less than you think right now." Dread pooled in Jake's stomach. His heart raced as he turned back to the girls, blissfully unaware and swinging high in the air, laughter punctuating the tense atmosphere. Did they even know what was at risk? Emotion gnawed at him. He wanted to shield them, to keep them in a world of ice cream and endless laughter, but he could feel the walls closing in. "I need to talk to them," he decided, mulling over how to frame the truth delicately. Tom nodded, glancing toward the girls. "You know they'll have questions." Jake ran a hand over his face, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "I know. I don't want to ruin their day. Sometimes facing the storm is better than waiting for it to hit," Tom said softly, as if he understood Jake's turmoil. Before Jake could respond, Mia leaned closer, her voice low. "You're not alone in this," she assured him, the warmth of her shoulder against his silent promise. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Together." In that moment, Jake felt the pull between vulnerability and bravado. He had to meet this challenge head-on, but could he lean on Mia? His heart raced. It felt like walking a tightrope. As he pushed off the bench, determination surged through him. "Let us go talk to them," he said, standing taller. He approached the swings where Zoe and Emily were caught up in their game, their innocent smiles of fleeting comfort. "Hey, girls," Jake said gently, forcing his heartache aside. "Can we take a quick break from ice cream? I need to chat with you about something important." Their laughter faded into curious stares, the joy still glimmering behind their wide eyes. Zoe hopped off first, her ice cream barely touching the ground, and Emily followed suit. "What's wrong, Dad?" Zoe asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake felt the weight of the world on his shoulders as he knelt to their level, deeply aware of the innocence in front of him. "It's about the store. I found out some news that might change a few things for us." Emily looked up at him with confusion, her brows knitting together. "Are we going to lose the store? Is that why you look so serious?" He hesitated, grappling with the truth. "I'm not sure yet," he admitted, his voice shaky. "But I promise, we'll get through this. Whatever happens, we're still us together." Mia was beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, a gesture of solidarity. He could feel both her strength and his own wavering. "I'm scared, Dad," Zoe admitted, her voice small. Jake's heart broke at the sight of their vulnerability. "I know, but we'll face this, one step at a time." As he stood and looked into their eyes so full of trust and innocence, he realized the upcoming battle was about more than just business. And just as he was about to draw breath to continue reassuring them, a commotion erupted behind him. "Jake, you've got to see this." Tom's voice rang out, urgency lacing every syllable. A new wave of panic surged inside Jake. What else could go wrong? Was this the moment that would define everything? Could it push him toward a revelation he never expected? Would it unravel the fabric of the life he fought hard to create? For his daughters? Jake turned, the urgency in Tom's voice cutting through the moment like an icy wind. His heart pounded as he followed Tom's gaze. What could possibly demand such attention now? His girls needed him, but he felt a pull of obligation to understand the urgency that might influence everything that as they strode toward Tom. Jake caught a glimpse of excitement flickering in the older man's eyes. It was rare to see Tom that animated usually. He wore a mask of calm and competence. There had to be something significant happening. "What is it?" Jake asked, barely able to shake the knot of fear tightening in his chest. "Just follow me," Tom urged, leading him toward a small gathering by the picnic tables. The laughter and chatter of the park seemed distant now, swirling away in the chaotic path of uncertainty that as they approached, Jake's breath caught. In the center of the group stood a young woman he didn't recognize. Her presence commanded attention, and she radiated an air of confidence and elegance that contrasted starkly with the surrounding picnic atmosphere. A hush fell over the small crowd, and Jake noticed that Mia had moved closer, peering over his shoulder. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Sarah," Tom announced, the enthusiasm evident in his voice. "She just landed a position with the investors interested in the hardware store." Shock washed over Jake like a wave. Investors? This could be the ticket to help stabilize his relationship with the store. But was it the kind of help he wanted? Did he even understand what that might mean for him and his daughters? The young woman smiled, her gaze sweeping over the crowd before landing on Jake. "I know this must be shocking," she said, her voice calm yet vibrant. "But I believe I can play a role in ensuring this transition doesn't hurt the community or your business." Jake stepped forward, intrigued despite the uncertainty fluttering in his chest. "You're an investor? Why would you care about our store?" "Because I've seen firsthand how important businesses like yours are to families," she explained. "My father always taught me that community matters, and I want to find a solution that protects it." Jake's mind raced. Could she really help? And how did her connection to the investors change the current landscape he was grappling with? Questions bubbled in his throat, but he felt the weight of Zoe and Emily's gaze. They needed him to stay strong for them. Zoe tugged at his hand, a frown creasing her small forehead. "Dad, what is going on? Is she going to take our store?" Jake knelt beside her, forcing a smile, through rising uncertainty. Not if we can help it, sweetie. We're going to find a way to keep things going. Remember, we're together in this. With a nod, Zoe seemed to relax slightly, her trust still firmly held in the embrace of her father's promise. Listen, Sarah interjected, a kind but persuasive gleam in her eyes. I'd love to talk to you more about options. I want to help. If you're open to it, I can introduce you to my team and discuss some ideas. And how do we know you'll keep your word? Mia challenged, her gaze unwavering. That's fair, Sarah replied calmly, meeting Mia's fierce eyes. I can assure you, I want to build trust. You deserve nothing less. Maybe we can meet tomorrow? Jake felt the tension in the air shift. Tomorrow? That didn't feel like a bad start. But what if it was just another false dawn in a series of storms? The girls' laughter faded as they caught glimpses of their father's anxiety. More than ever, Jake realized how critical his next steps would be not just for him, but for their futures. Let us talk, he said slowly, weighing his words. But understand that trust has to be earned. What's at stake is bigger than any business deal. The young woman nodded. I understand. I'll do everything I can to make this right. As the conversation drifted into the promises of potential change, Jake felt a flicker of hope. But before he could lose himself in the whirlwind of ideas, the knot in his stomach reminded him of the reality looming above him. What if this sudden connection led to answers or more uncertainty? Would it change everything for the girls? Just then, a loud crash echoed from across the park, cutting through his thoughts. The moment of calm after Sarah's words seemed eclipsed by the sudden chaos that erupted. What now? Jake wondered, his heart racing once again as he turned. Was there no peace for them at all? Jake spun around just in time to see a flaming orange ball speed past him, narrowly missing his shoulder. Laughter erupted from the group near the picnic tables as a cluster of kids ran after it, their energy igniting the atmosphere with excitement. The chaos that had threatened to spiral out of control seemed harmless now, just a neighborhood game of catch gone slightly awry. But Jake's heart was still racing, the tension lingering like an uninvited guest. Hey, let us keep it friendly, someone called out. But the laughter only grew louder, easing the earlier knot in Jake's stomach just a bit. Dad, can we join them? Zoe tugged at his shirt, her eyes sparkling with delight. Emily, who had been quiet, now perked up at the thought of joining the fun. Jake hesitated. His instinct was to keep them close, to shield them from any potential turbulence that loomed on the horizon. But seeing their faces light up brought a rush of warmth. All right, just for a little while, he agreed. Unable to resist their enthusiasm, they dashed off, laughter trailing behind them like fireflies. Jake remained by the picnic tables, stealing glances at Sarah as she engaged with the other adults. Her animated discussions contrasted sharply with his own swirling thoughts. Each animated movement of her hands seemed to emphasize the potential she spoke of. Were they genuinely on the cusp of an opportunity, or was it just another false promise? In the midst of his uncertainty, Tom sidled up beside him. She has got a good heart, Jake. I can feel that much. Yeah, but can we trust her? This is our livelihood, our girl's future. Sometimes trust is built slowly brick by brick. You just have to pay attention and see if the foundation is solid. Tom leaned back, scanning the park. Let them play. You need a breather too. Jake nodded, albeit reluctantly. Taking a moment to breathe, he forced himself to take in the scene: the families picnicking, kids darting around with carefree laughter, the gentle sway of the trees. It was everything he had wanted when he took over the store, a community woven together by shared moments. But in the depths of his heart, a shadow lingered. What if Sarah's goals didn't align with theirs? As the game of catch continued, Jake glanced back towards Sarah, who was now speaking with a middle-aged man he didn't recognize. Something flickered in her expression: determination? Passion? Whatever it was, it made him uneasy. Decisions were edging closer, and he could feel them creeping up like a tide that can't be held back. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the air, shattering the carefree vibes like glass. Jake's head snapped toward the sound, instincts kicking into overdrive. He ran, heart pounding as panic clawed at his throat. The crowd had shifted, and his eyes widened as he spotted Zoe on the ground, having tripped over her own feet while chasing the ball. Emily was at her side, eyes wide with fear, while other kids stood frozen, their laughter replaced with concerned murmurs. Zoe! Jake shouted, racing towards them. As he neared, The world spun in slow motion. Everything felt insignificant compared to the sight of his daughter on the ground. "Is she okay?" someone asked, but all Jake could focus on was Zoe's scrunched face, teetering on the edge of tears. He knelt beside her, scooping her up into his arms. "I'm here, Pumpkin," he whispered. "You're okay. Just breathe." That was when he noticed Sarah, stepping forward, her face pale as she locked eyes with him. "I used to take a fall like that in gymnastics," she said softly. "It can be scary, but she's going to be all right." Jake's heart was still racing for a different reason now. Something about Sarah in this moment offered a new layer to their conversation. She wasn't just an investor. There was resilience in her, an understanding of the struggle he was wrestling with every day. "Hey, you doing okay?" Sarah reached out as Zoe rubbed her eyes, still gulping down sobs. Jake looked between them, realization dawning. This woman might just be more than he initially thought. But just as those thoughts settled, a new twist stirred the air, one that Jake couldn't predict. He could feel the moment shifting again. Jake wondered, could she truly be an ally? Or would this unexpected meeting lead to even more complications? Zoe trembled in Jake's arms, her small frame shaking as she fought back tears. He held her tighter, pressing a comforting kiss to her forehead. "You're all right, sweetheart. Just keep breathing." The sound of the park faded into the background, punctuated only by the distant laughter of kids playing and the occasional clink of picnic utensils. The panic that had surged through him was now tethered to the sight of Sarah kneeling beside them, her concern genuine. As their eyes met again, Jake felt a flicker of connection that he hadn't anticipated. "Has she hit her head?" Sarah asked, her voice low and patient. There was a calmness in her demeanor, an aura that seemed to soothe Zoe as time ticked slowly around them. "She just tripped. I don't think she needs medical attention," Jake replied, feeling a flicker of relief only to be quickly overshadowed by a rush of questions. Was this the moment when he needed to let down his guard? Zoe's eyes blinked away tears as she looked to Sarah, who smiled softly. "You were very brave, you know. Falling can be tough, but it makes us stronger." Zoe sniffled, swiping at her cheeks. Jake could see her mind processing the words, beginning to shift from fear to understanding. "Let us get you some water," Jake suggested, hoping to pull her focus away from the fall. He rose to his feet, still cradling Zoe as he walked toward the cooler where he stored drinks earlier. As they moved away, Jake caught Tom's eye. His friend stood several paces back, surveying the scene with a look of concern mingled with relief. Jake felt an undeniable need to talk, to express the conflict brewing inside him. Could Sarah really be the partner they needed? Or was she just another risk of venture that could lead to disaster? "Hey, mind if I join you?" Tom asked, falling into step beside them. Zoe shifted in Jake's arms, leaning toward her father for comfort. "I don't know, man. I'm trying to get my head around this." Jake's words tumbled out in a rush. "Sarah, she's different than I thought. She actually cares." "She does." Tom's nod was firm. "But that doesn't mean she has all the answers. You need to watch what you're getting into." "Yeah, but what if this could be good for us?" "For the store?" Jake hesitated, glancing over his shoulder at Sarah, who had engaged another family, her smile bright and infectious. "What if this is our break?" The moment was heavy, each word weighed down by uncertainty. Jake's heart raced again, but not from fear this time. It was a nagging sense of hope mingled with dread. Could he trust this feeling? Just then, Zoe squirmed, her tiny hand hugging his neck as if trying to pull him back to reality. "Daddy, I want to go play again." Jake chuckled softly, but his mind was still churning. "After we get water, okay? You need to rest those legs." Just then, Sarah approached, an unwelcome flicker of anxiety sparking in Jake's gut. "How is she doing?" she said, glancing from Zoe to Jake, her gaze steady and sincere. "She's tough," Jake replied, attempting a reassuring smile. "Just a little scared." "That's normal," Sarah assured, her voice warm. "Kids bounce back faster than we give them credit for." Jake swallowed hard. He wanted to reach out, to ask her more about her vision, about who she truly was. Were her intentions as clear as she presented? But then there was a commotion behind her. A group of teenagers had arrived, bringing an air of wild energy that shifted the atmosphere sharply. Jake felt an immediate tightening in his chest and instinctively shielded Zoe with his arm. "Stay close, okay?" he whispered gently. In that moment, the park erupted with renewed laughter and cheers, but to him, It felt like an approaching storm. He kept his eyes fixed on Sarah. Her posture shifted, as if she sensed the change too, brows drawing together in concern. The air suddenly buzzed with uncertainty, tension creeping back in, thick as a summer fog. Jake was reminded of the stakes at play, of everything that was teetering on the edge of their fragile balance: his family, their future, and now this curious alliance. "Jake," Zoe said, looking up at him, "do you think Sarah will stay?" He hesitated, his heart heavy. Could he be brave enough to let someone new in? Would Sarah choose to be part of their family or simply drift away when the tides shifted? He opened his mouth to answer, but the words were caught in his throat as he watched the first clouds of trouble rolling in, veiled in laughter and excitement. What if we lose her? He thought, heart pounding as the world around him spun anew. Would he be able to trust her in the way he desperately wanted to? Because something told him that the coming days would bring answers he wasn't quite ready for. As the laughter of the teenagers echoed through the park, Jake's heart raced. He glanced at the group, young and carefree, their energy spilling over into the surrounding area. It felt like a wave crashing against the fragile shoreline of his thoughts. Zoe squeezed him tighter, sensing the shift in his demeanor. "Daddy, I don't like them," she whispered, her voice small, a stark contrast to the noise surrounding them. He stroked her hair, his heart tugging at her unease. "They're just having fun, Zoe. But we can move to someplace quieter if you want." He wanted to protect her from everything: the chaos of the park, his uncertainties, the questions about Sarah that swirled in his mind like a summer storm. "Can we sit by the water?" she suggested, pointing toward a small pond where ducks paddled lazily. It was a quieter spot, where she could watch the ripples dance across the surface. Of course. Jake turned to Sarah, who stood a step behind, trying to gauge their next move. "Want to join us?" The words slipped out before he could think. Her expression flickered with surprise, but then a smile spread across her face, radiant and open like the clear blue sky above. "I'd love to." As they walked towards the water, Jake felt a pull between admiration for Sarah and the gnawing fear of vulnerability. He glanced sideways at her as they settled on a bench near the pond, Zoe sitting comfortably between them. "You know, kids are like sponges," Sarah began, her voice soft yet confident. "They soak up everything around them. It's incredible how quickly they recover." Jake studied her, intrigued. "Right. That's what I hoped would happen with Zoe," she just bounced back. "Because she knows you're there, Jake. Your presence is a safety net for her." Sarah's eyes were warm, and for a moment, he felt like she was reading deeper into him than anyone ever had. "Do you have kids?" Zoe piped up, tilting her head up to look at Sarah with curiosity. Sarah laughed softly. "Not yet, but I love spending time with kids. They remind me of the beauty in simple things." Just then, a loud splash caused all three of them to turn. The teenagers had thrown something into the pond, and a cascade of laughter followed. Jake felt anxiety ripple through him again, a protective instinct rising up. What if they disrupted Zoe's moment of peace? "Let us focus on the ducks," Jake suggested, wanting to divert Zoe's attention. But before he could redirect, Sarah said, "Look at how they swim, so effortlessly. Just like life, right?" Something stirred in him at her words. "Effortless. Is that how it looks?" "Because sometimes it feels anything but." "We all wear masks," Sarah replied thoughtfully. "We might look strong, but underneath, we have our struggles." Jake met her gaze, a sudden warmth flaring in him at the shared honesty. "I guess we do." Before more could be said, Zoe stood up, approaching the edge of the pond, eyes wide with wonder at the ripples forming as the ducks glided by. Jake's heart leaped to his throat, and instinctively, he followed her closely, ready to scoop her back if she stumbled. "Be careful, sweetheart," he called out, anxiety creeping back. "I'm okay," she giggled, twirling around, the sun catching her hair like glinting gold. The moment filled with joy, but Jake felt the pull of uncertainty weighing his heart as well. Could they truly bring something lasting, something meaningful into their lives? Or would this moment fade like so many before? Zoe paused, glancing back at both adults. "Are we a family now?" Her question hung in the air, innocent yet profound, making Jake freeze. His breath caught. What if, he thought, suddenly both terrified of the implications and yearning for the answer? But right when he thought he could respond, they were interrupted by the shrill laughter of the teens, echoing again, a reminder of the chaos around them. Jake shifted, caught between the turbulence of his feelings and the serene charm of the moment. He opened his mouth to speak, but as a flock of ducks honked loudly, something inside him cracked open a little more, exposing a tender hope. Could he let someone in? Could Sarah really be the one to walk this road alongside them? Daddy? Zoe said, her eyes wide and trusting. Yes, sweetheart. Do you think we can be happy with Sarah? The weight of the question pressed heavily on him, and in the tidal pull of vulnerability, he glanced at Sarah. Her smile was radiant, yet shadowed by something unspoken. Let us find out, he whispered, heart pounding. But as he looked back at the teenagers, drawing nearer, he wondered if they would have the chance. Because the answer might change everything. Jake's heart raced as he tried to process Zoe's question. The world around him melted away, and all he could focus on was the innocent sincerity in her eyes. Could they really be happy? Sarah, sensing the weight of the moment, shifted slightly towards him. You know, she said quietly, happiness is often about taking the leap, even when things feel uncertain. Her words resonated within him, like a soft melody cutting through the noise of the park. The shrill laughter of the teens faded into the background. He could see it now, the possibility of a new life, a new family. But doubt still clung stubbornly to him, refusing to dissipate. What if this doesn't work? He murmured, more to himself than to Sarah. What if we don't fit together like a family? Zoe, oblivious to the older conversations, plopped back down on the bench with a splash of earthy laughter. Can we feed the ducks? She asked, excitement bubbling over. Jake forced a smile, the warmth of his daughter's joy igniting a spark of hope. Sure, let us do that. He stood up, feeling the familiar tug of his responsibilities as a dad. Providing happiness for Zoe had to be his priority, no matter the risk he faced in finding his OW. And as they approached the pond's edge, Sarah joined them, taking out a small loaf of bread from her bag. Here, Zoe, let us break this up for the ducks. Zoe's eyes lit up as she helped, the earlier tension forgotten. With each piece of bread they tossed onto the water, Jake felt the heaviness in his heart lift just a little. Watching Sarah interact with Zoe was a beautiful sight, one he and T realized he longed for until now. She had that natural ability to connect, to bring joy. Suddenly, Zoe squealed, her arms stretching out to the ducks, flapping around like they might actually fly. Look, Daddy, they like it. She laughed, and Jake couldn't help but chuckle at her contagious laughter as they continued feeding the ducks. Jake carried on small talk with Sarah about the little things' favorite foods, childhood dreams, and odd pet names. He noticed how her face lit up when she spoke, the way her enthusiasm seemed to bloom like the flowers around them. After a while, those scattered delights added up, and he felt a gentle pull towards her. Yet underneath that budding warmth, fear still lurked. What if we chased this happiness only for it to vanish? He thought. In the past, those thoughts had led him to isolation, to shutting people out. Zoe's laughter echoed again, shaking him from his reverie. Daddy, can we go on the swings later? She asked, with a hopeful glint in her eyes. Of course, he replied, knowing that no matter the outcome with Sarah, he would always strive to create happy moments for Zoe. What about you, Sarah? Do you like swings? Zoe asked, turning her wide-eyed innocence towards the woman who had slipped into their lives in such a short time. Sarah smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. I do, but only if I get to push you really high. Zoe giggled, her laughter mixing with the soft rustling of leaves above them, and for a moment, everything felt right. Yet lurking in the distance, shadows of doubt lingered. Just then, Jake caught sight of the teenagers again, their boisterous energy threatening to crash like storm waves on their serene moment by the pond. Maybe we should find that swing set soon, he murmured, glancing back at Sarah. He needed to divert the potential disruption. But before he could suggest moving on, one of the teenagers stumbled their way, a smug grin plastered on his face. What are you doing here? Playing with your babysitter? Jake's stomach sank. The laughter faded, and he felt the weight of judgment like a brick. He glimpsed at Sarah, her expression delicate yet unwavering, and he felt his protective instincts surge. Leave us alone, he said, his voice steady. The teenager leaned in closer, a taunt ready to roll off his tongue, but Jake wouldn't be rattled. Not today. Zoe looked between the three of them, guilt beginning to cast a shadow over her bright demeanor. Daddy, they're being mean. No, they're not, Jake said quickly. kneeling beside her, forcing a smile. They're just having their fun. Fun. The teenager shot back, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Looks more like a playground romance. Jake tensed, his heart pumping wildly in his chest. He caught Sarah's gaze and witnessed the flicker of concern reflected back at him. Could he control how this would unfold? Let it go, whispered Sarah, her calm presence pushing against Jake's rising anger. But in that moment, everything felt precarious. The fragile bubble that had formed between them all was threatened. With a heavy heart, Jake pondered what would it cost to defend who and what he truly wanted. As the laughter of teenagers merged once again with his hopes and fears, Jake breathed deeply, grappling with the reality of standing up and embracing the future. Would he have the courage to choose happiness? And as the moment hung in the air, uncertainty brewed just beneath the surface, waiting to burst. Jake's heart raced as the tension filled the air like a tightly wound spring. He felt like he was being thrust into the spotlight, exposed and vulnerable. The teenager's smirk didn't help, and he could feel Zoe's confusion radiating around them like static electricity. "Simon, leave them alone," Jake barked, surprising even himself with the ferocity in his voice. He stood taller, trying to shield Zoe from the judgment swirling around them. The laughter from the park felt distant now, just a backdrop to this critical moment. "Boo-hoo, look at the daddy protecting his babysitter. What a sad sight." The teen jeered, but Jake shared a glance with Sarah. It was a fleeting moment, but it spoke volumes: resilience, understanding, a hint of encouragement. "What's sad is how you think it's fun to tear people down," Sarah chimed in, her voice steady yet fierce. Jake felt a swell of pride for her bravery. She wasn't just a bystander. She was on their side. Zoe's small hand squeezed Jake's, grounding him. "Daddy, I want to go on the swings, please," she pleaded, her innocence breaking through the chaos. Jake's resolve softened. He couldn't let the moment spiral further. "Okay, Zoe, let us go to the swings," he said, focusing on her, hoping it would redirect their attention. As they turned away, Jake felt a rush of relief. He led them toward the swings, trying to shake off the encounter. With each step, he could feel the weight lifting, but not completely. A part of him still simmered with anger. When they finally reached the swing set, Zoe climbed onto one and reached for Jake with outstretched arms. "Push me really high." He grinned and began to push her gently. "How high do you want to go?" "Really, really high?" she squealed, her laughter spilling over in waves. Jake found solace in Zoe's joy. Each push was a small reminder of what mattered most, creating happiness for her, regardless of the storm brewing around him. He began to tune out the world, immersed in her laughter, allowing himself to smile more freely. "Hey, Sarah," he called, "come help me with the big push." She approached, her expression brightening as she joined him, standing behind Zoe. "We're a good team," she said, pushing along with him. It felt natural, like they had been doing this for years. As they sent Zoe soaring higher, Jake caught a glimpse of her unfiltered happiness reflected in Sarah's watchful gaze. There was something about the way Sarah smiled, how her eyes crinkled at the corners, that made everything feel lighter. But just as the warmth enveloped him, the earlier encounter crept back into his mind. How would he protect this fragile happiness? What if those taunts became a part of Zoe's reality, something he couldn't shield her from? "Jake," Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, "you okay?" He hesitated, battling the urge to lay it all out. Instead, he simply nodded, forcing a smile. The last thing he wanted was to burden her with his worries. "Yeah, just thinking about how great Zoe is at swings." "Yeah, she is. And you're a good dad, you know?" Her words hit him like a wave, riding over his doubts momentarily. No matter what uncertainties awaited him, he could embrace this moment. Zoe squealed as she soared, her joy uncontainable. But the lingering unease nagged at the edges of his mind. He wasn't just worried about a few harsh words. It was a question of trust and connection. Just then, another group of teenagers walked by, glancing at them and snickering. Jake's heart sank. Would they confront him again? He tightened his grip on the swing chain, readying himself. But Sarah stepped up, arms crossed defiantly. "Hey," she called out. "Why don't you go find something better to do?" The unexpected boldness in her voice shocked him. He watched the teens slow down, their laughter stuttering, perhaps momentarily caught off guard by her confidence. As they awkwardly shuffled away, Jake felt admiration bubbling up. For the first time, he realized it wasn't just about defending against the outside world. There was strength in standing together, in having someone by his side. As Zoe giggled and flew higher, Jake caught Sarah's eye. "I appreciate you," he said, sincerity flooding his voice. Just then, the moment hit him. Where would this lead? Could he allow himself to be vulnerable? Could he take that leap Sarah had suggested? Before he could unravel the possibility of moving forward, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket, shattering the serenity. He pulled it out, glancing at the notification. A familiar name flashed on the screen. "Not now," he whispered, his stomach twisting. He looked up, catching Sarah's concerned expression. "Who is it?" she asked softly, the warmth of their earlier moment hanging in the air. With a deep breath, Jake contemplated whether he had it in him to tackle whatever was coming next. The questions tumbled in his mind again. Each interaction felt pivotal, like a ripple waiting to transform into waves. "It's complicated," he answered, his mind racing with unasked questions, a creeping uncertainty grasping at his hope for a future. And just as the last piece of happiness felt precarious, he knew one thing for sure. The journey ahead was going to demand everything he had. Was he ready for it? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the park. Jake took a steadying breath, the world around him fading slightly as he focused on the glowing figures of Zoe and Emily, joy radiating from their laughter. For a fleeting moment, everything felt bright and still, a serene cocoon wrapping them in carefree bliss. "Hey," Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, firm and confident. "Do you want to talk about it?" Jake hesitated, the weight of his phone still heavy in his palm. The call could change everything. "It's just stress about the hardware store," he finally admitted, his voice low. The truth hung between them like a fragile thread, inviting air into a room filled with suffocating anxieties. "Sometimes sharing is the first step to easing the burden," Sarah encouraged. Her eyes were clear, offering a space that felt safe. And right then, an unexpected warmth pulsed through him. He glanced over at Zoe, still swinging high, her cheeks flushed and laughter infectious. "Okay," he said, heart pounding. "There's talk of selling it if I can't come up with the funds. I can't let that happen. This store, it's our life, it's everything to us." The desperation edged into his voice, and he felt himself on the brink of an all-too-familiar fear. "You've built a great little community," Sarah replied thoughtfully, her gaze steady. "I've been impressed by what I've seen, your daughters, your neighbors. You're not alone in this, Jake." He felt the raw sincerity of her words wrap around him, soothing the raw, familiar doubt. "But I don't want to take help. I'm afraid of what that might mean." "What you're really afraid of is losing control," she said gently. "But you don't have to do this alone. Lean on someone who cares. Lean on me." Jake's heart quickened. Why did those words feel like a lifeline? Could he trust her? His gut twisted with uncertainty, and yet he was drawn to her warmth, to the promise in her voice. Suddenly, a commotion erupted nearby, pulling Jake's attention. A group of teenagers had flung a ball that careened dangerously close to Zoe. Time paused as Jake jumped into action, instincts kicking in. "Zoe, move back," he called. He shot forward, and in a tumbling rush, he caught the ball, feeling adrenaline surge through him. A wave of relief crashed over him as he turned to see Zoe's startled expression morph into a smile of delight. "Thanks, Daddy," she squealed, oblivious to the chaos around her. As the laughter erupted and the group of teens dispersed, Jake felt the evening settle into an unexpected peace. Yet, the strains of uncertainty loomed over him like a storm cloud. He glanced at Sarah, who wore a smile that was equal parts validation and challenge. "That could be turned ugly, but you reacted," she said, pride radiating in her tone. "Sure, but what happens when I can't protect them?" The weight in his heart began to swell again, unease flickering up his spine. "What if the store closes? If we lose our home? Then we fight for it," she replied, her voice unwavering. "And if we have to face it, we do it together." Her words struck a chord deep within him, resonating with memories of struggle and survival. He thought of how his daughters had been through so much already, yet here they were, embracing life with open arms. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the park, Jake's heart opened slightly, the dam of uncertainty cracking. He found himself feeling something new, something more than just fear, a flicker of hope. What if he could take that leap? What if vulnerability could lead to healing? Stay close, he said softly to Zoe, nudging her to his side, while Sarah stepped a little closer to a quiet show of unity that offered premonitions of brighter tomorrows. In that moment, they were a family shaky but strong. Can we make a plan? He asked suddenly, the words feeling liberating. About the store? Absolutely, Sarah responded, her eyes gleaming with determination. Let us brainstorm. We can find solutions together. You don't have to face this alone anymore. Jake nodded, feeling as if he was ushering in a new chapter, one that could make all the difference. And as Emily dashed over, her cheeks rosy with enthusiasm, Jake couldn't help but take a deep breath, envisioning a vibrant horizon where laughter reigned over fear. With each beat of his heart, he felt more resolute. His world wasn't just a battleground. It was also filled with the possibilities of renewal, connection, and choices that would bring them closer together. Let us go play, he said, turning to Sarah, the spark in his eyes signaling a fresh start. They walked arm in arm towards the swings, Zoe's laughter intertwining with Emily's joyful cheers. And as they plunged into the chaos of the moment, Jake knew there would always be reasons to fight together. But now, he understood that love could weave a stronger fabric around their lives than any fear that sought to tear them apart. His heart surged with a palpable sense of joy. He was not just turning the page, they were writing a whole new story. Exhilaration thrummed through him as he turned to the camera's lens, conviction in his voice. You need to subscribe now to join us, to keep feeling this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Drop that like, and keep us alive in this journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share your thoughts in the comments. Your feelings matter as we all grow together. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's keep this energy flowing.